Do you like learning tricks that nobody else knows? In this video, we're covering tire-related hot topics, and I guarantee you that you will not be able to make it through this video without learning at least one thing. In fact, I am almost certain that the last, item number 8 that I'll share with you, is something that none of you guys probably know. I didn't know about it. I learned about it from a friend, and it's an incredible hack for off-roading. Okay, let's talk tire plug kits. Now, before you leave, because you think I'm just gonna tell you to go and get a tire plug kit, that is not what I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you that your tire plug kit that you already bought probably is gonna let you down someday. And here's the things you need to look for to make sure it's an actual good kit. For example, this kit that has 86 parts is actually missing a very critical item. This kit, which is also bought on Amazon and is super cheap, has that critical item. So let's talk about the differences here. The things you're gonna find in a plug kit that everyone knows. You're gonna have your, I call them Slim Jims, your sticky plugs that you use to patch the hole. If you don't know it, sometimes the holes are too big and you have to do multiple ones of these. We actually just got a flat this last week. Well, next week we are kicking off the Overland build on this. We've kind of taken it on 2 shakedown trips. There's about 200 miles of dirt road. This time is a great lesson to learn why all-weather tires do not make great all-terrain tires. So 60 miles yesterday, we woke up this morning and this thing is completely flat. But it did drive yesterday, so I think I'll be able to patch it. If not, we have a full-size spare. And we had to stick 2 of these in to fix it. Believe it or not, you can fit 3 of them in there at a time if you really want to, and plunge them into the hole, plug the hole. Some of the things that are nice to have are lubricant. I know there's so many jokes that could be made about all the words that I'm saying right now, but we're just gonna stick to being kid-friendly channel here. Don't be the person that is trying really hard to stick them in and starts twisting this. Double patch. Oh, come on, it's going. Careful, if you twist that too much where the thing's open at the bottom, it just snaps them off. Come on, go in there. Go in your home. Go in your home. There they go. There they go. And that's good. We'll leave a lot out this time. You twist this. If this eyelet hasn't made it through the rubber yet, you will break off the side, and then you will not be able to stick a plug in. That leads us to one of the most important things that you better make sure that your kit actually has. Your kit should have spare pieces of this. So this kit right here, you can find it right here, it actually comes with a spare. And it actually comes with a spare for both. And once you break one of these, you pretty much learn the lesson to never twist it when you're trying to put it in, and you pretty much do it right from there. The other thing that you're gonna need is spare valve cores, because a lot of people use these air down things that pull your valve core out and put it back in and pull it out and put it back in. It's also really easy to break them and wear them out over time. The other things that almost every single one has is like the razor for cutting off the Slim Jims if they're too long and they're sticking out too much. The one that I like about this is this one comes with spare complete valve stems. If you off-road and you rock crawl a lot, there's a good chance you've probably broken one of these before. This kit, like I said, that has 86 different things, but it does not come with spare valve stems. That's okay. That doesn't mean this is a trash kit. That just means get a little bag, order a few extra valve stems, throw it in your kit. Now you've got a complete kit that's not gonna let you down someday. What do you do when no matter how many Slim Jims you try to stick in a hole on a tire, you can't patch it, but you need that tire to get home? That's where glue tread comes in. And I've had them in my car and I've used it multiple times since then. Ironically, never to patch a tire. I used it to patch radiator hoses and all kinds of other things. But if you rip a huge hole in your tire, this thing has massive patches that you can use to patch that hole. And believe it or not, it does work and it will get you off of the mountain. I have friends that have used them quite a bit. It's a really important item for like going places like Baja. So get one of these, just throw it in the bottom of your bag. Hopefully you never have to use it, but it comes in handy for a lot more things than just patching tires. I want you to do something right now. If you don't know the answer to this question, you should pause this video and go check. Does your car have a full-size spare that matches the rest of the tires? If the answer is yes, skip to the next section. If the answer is no, one problem you can run into is when you have a mismatched tire, you can wear out your differential. And that's highly dependent on the car, what type of limited slips you have, and all kinds of different stuff. And there's not enough time to go into all that technical detail right now. So first and foremost, try to have a full-size spare. If you don't have a full-size spare and you blow up your tire and you cannot patch it, then yes, you can use your mismatched spare. I tend to rotate them to the back of the vehicle so it doesn't impact my steering a whole lot. And then I tend to drive very carefully. I unlock everything. You don't want to be using your lockers or any of the limited slip type stuff that cars have built into them now to give you better traction. You want all that off because you actually want your differential to be able to slip a lot because those two tires are going to move at different speeds. And I don't want to overwork my differential and blow it up. There's a lot of horror stories of people that have actually changed their tires and didn't even realize that it was a different size. So not only did they get off the trail, but they also proceeded to drive 150 miles on the freeway and they blow up their differential. This can definitely happen. So if you do have a mismatched spare and you don't really have room or a way to get similar size spares, then I would go do some research in the forums on your specific vehicle and figure out what you should be turning off and where you should be rotating that missized tire to. Now, these are general rules, or as they say, guidelines. If you're gonna air down and you take the PSI that you're gonna air down to, if you double that, you should not be going faster than that. So for example, when I go snow wheeling and I air down to 4 PSI, that would give me a speed limit of 8 miles per hour, which is very, very slow. But also when you're down to single digits, you're really not generally driving very fast. When we're snow wheeling, we're not going miles per hour. We're usually going hours per mile. So that kind of works. When I'm on dirt gravel roads, I tend to air down to 17, 18 PSI. That's generally enough with the size tires that I have. I have a lot of sidewall available on my tires because I use 17-inch rims. So I tend to air it down to 17. Well, you do the math. 17 times 2 is 34. So I really shouldn't be going over 34, 35 miles per hour. The reason for that is the faster that you go, when your tire is at the bottom getting squished, it will balloon out on the side. And then when it goes up to the top where the weight isn't on it, it will stretch it back out. If you take a piece of metal and you bend it back and forth a whole bunch, it gets warm and then eventually breaks in half. Same thing happens to your tire sidewalls, okay? You overheat your tire sidewalls, you will not even know that damage is being done. And then someday you'll just be on a rock trail and your whole entire sidewall will shred out and you'll get mad at the tire manufacturer and be like, oh, these tires weren't very good. The rock ripped it so easy. But really, it will be heat damage that ultimately causes that failure. If you're in Canada and you're doing kilometers, I guess you guys just have to be better at math than us because you got to do extra calculations. Make sure you're airing down to the right PSI. Somehow when we all started off-roading, we were all convinced to buy one of these things to air down our tires. I don't know why we all have to start with one of these. I hate these things. A much better solution that is the same price and works way better is these little tiny guys that you just screw on to your valve stem, set it to the PSI that you want it to air it down to, and it automatically just airs them all down to that PSI. It works. It's so simple. They cost like 35 bucks on Amazon. I'll put a link below. There are a lot of companies that make cool stuff within a valve stem to make that valve stem where you can just pop a lever and air down very quickly. That works really, really good for the Overland crowd. But a lot of those don't work so great for the rock crawling crowd because a lot of those things stick out and they're a little bit stiffer than a normal valve stem, so they're a lot easier to break off. On one of my Overland rigs, I have those. It takes me 22 seconds to air down a tire from full highway driving PSI to 17 PSI. So that's pretty fast, but it really, like I said, only works on Overland rigs. Okay, are you airing up wrong? This one's very much up to personal preference, but I can at least share a couple tricks that I've learned and a couple things that I've changed over the years to make it easier for myself. One thing is there's a lot of people out there with these systems now where you can hook up all 4 of your tires at the same time and set the PSI and it will air them all up. And what I've noticed, I have off-roaded with a lot of those people. By the time they're done setting up their whole entire thing and turn that button on, I already have 2 tires aired up, just going old school, 1 tire at a time, and I'm always finished just as fast, if not faster than them. So I don't really see those as a time saver, but there is an advantage that those do offer. And what it is it helps your air compressor not overheat. Heat is the enemy of all air compressors. So when you have all 4 tires going at the same time, whatever that thing is producing, it's able to push that full flow through and into tires. So that's cool. It can elongate the life of your air compressor a little bit. But also, if you don't want to have to deal with 4 different and 5 different ends of a cable that seems like it always gets tangled, and I'm telling you guys, these things always get tangled, then what I would recommend is going with something more like a reel system. Like this is a reel that I bolt into the back on a molly panel on my Tundra. I can reach all 4 tires as well as cars next to me. And it keeps it really organized and I don't have to deal with as much tangles. The other thing that you do with this is a lot of the times where they're saying your compressor's overheating because it's trying to push air through to your tires and it's getting blocked in here is because people don't use these high flow nozzles. So this nozzle has teeth on it that will grip on to the tire and automatically pull it in. It is high flow, so it doesn't have all that extra junk in here that slows down the air. So I just use a high flow nozzle on a reel, and I've been able to air up as fast as any of these other guys. I'm airing up using a dual ARB compressor, and the only reason I have that is because it's also being used to run lockers. One thing that's cool about this high flow nozzle is when you disconnect it from the tire, it still blows air out. And a lot of people find that really annoying because it's loud. I love it because if you drop this into the snow, when you're wheeling, like in sub-zero temperatures, or you drop it into the mud, or you drop it into the dirt, it keeps all the mud and muck out of the end of this because it's constantly expelling air. So you just walk over to your next tire, put it on, and it helps keep it clean. We had some problems in the snow, especially when people had 4 different hoses that they're all trying to keep track of. Those were dragging in the snow, freezing shut with ice, and you were having to use torches to literally melt the ice out of them to be able to use them to air up your tires. The other option though, we're building out a budget build Land Cruiser right now. I am absolutely not above just taking this, a battery pack that also has an air compressor that's capable of airing up about 15 to 20 tires. If you're gonna use a battery-powered air compressor, make sure you test it before you get on the road. How many times can you air up and air down your tires before it's dead? And is that gonna be good enough for your trip? So I've tested this one. This is that one by Fantic. I've talked about it before. I'm probably just gonna stick something like this inside of the Land Cruiser because it's a budget build and we're trying to see if we can get all the different necessities that we need for overlanding, but keep it affordable to the common everyday family. And $800 twin air compressors from ARB, that is not in everyone's budget. Also, when you're shopping around air compressors, realize some of that pricing has come down. There's lots of competitors on the market that have very much copied ARB's design. There's Via Air out there. There is another one. Oh, OVS, Overland Vehicle Systems. They have a dual air compressor now. These things are coming in at like half the price. You're gonna have to go read the forums as far as reliability. All of those things break because they get subjected to heat long enough, they can break. You wanna look into the ones that offer rebuild kits, and you might even wanna buy a rebuild kit and throw it in your glove box just in case you do break yours on the road. Okay, really quick while we're on the topic of compressors. If heat is what kills a compressor, it's mind-boggling to me why everyone mounts them underneath their hood in their truck. Don't do that. There's much better places. You can mount them under your seat. Lots of people have kits for those. In the case of my Land Cruiser, it is mounted in the back of the truck, and in the Tundra, same thing. It is mounted inside the Go Fast in the back of the truck. That way, it's not subjected to crazy amounts of heat when the engine is running, and they last much longer. They also get a lot less dust going into the filters on them and everything like that. Okay, you're on the trail and you debeaded a tire for the very, very first time, and now you're trying to get air in it and it keeps leaking out the side. What do you do? So first of all, when you debead a tire, more often than not, one of the most important things you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to get the weight off the tire. So hopefully you have a high lift jack or some kind of jack along with you to be able to get that thing elevated so it doesn't have any weight on it. Once you get no weight on it, you can still run into issues where it just kind of seems like, especially if you're alone, where you're trying to hold one side down and air's leaking out a tiny bit on the other side, and you don't have 3 arms, so you can't hold all of them at once. Sometimes it's a good idea to carry like a tension strap like this that you can put through your rim and around your tire and kind of cinch it down to help hold it on to the bead or closer to the bead to like get the air going and moving in there. So I use these or ratchet straps sometimes is one way to get something back on the bead. Another one is also, of course, the fire boom method. I've used this a lot. It really works really, really well, but there's a couple tricks to even the fire boom method. First of all, you're gonna need something that can make fire. You're going to need something that is highly flammable, not mildly flammable. Some people are like, oh, brake clean is flammable. Well, some of it is, and nowadays some of it isn't. So it's gonna depend. The other thing is a lot of people don't know how much to use. If you're using something that is highly flammable, I tend to spray, you wanna get the spray into the tire. It can't just be on the edge of the tire and the rim. So you gotta get it into the tire, and there's gotta be a clear shot for the fire to go into that rim and expand that air really quickly. When I do that, I tend to do like a 4 count of like 1, 2, 3, 4 while I'm spraying the flammable liquid into there. Then I make a fuse. I actually spray a line away from the tire. A lot of people just spray it in and then try to light inside the tire. And you got to remember, once that lights, that tire is going to pop fast. You don't want fingers in there. You don't want to drop your lighter in there. So I like to do a little fuse. I tend to have like a rag or something. So right after it goes, there'll be a little bit of flames on your tire and you just kind of swat them out. Another thing to think about, you shouldn't be doing this in the desert during fire season when there's burn bans everywhere and half of the West is on fire. So this is an emergency only scenario, and you need to be very, very conscious about the odds of you starting a wildfire and putting yourself in even more danger. Some people worry about, does the heat damage your tire? That heat is on your tire for such a short amount of time. That's not a big deal. One thing that people don't realize though is the second that it goes boom, you need to have your air compressor ready to go to put additional air in it. If you leave it alone after it goes boom, a lot of times that air will rapidly cool and it'll just pop right back off again. So make sure you have your air compressor ready to go right away and put air into it as soon as it makes the pop. Okay, so here's one of my favorite all-time tire-related hacks, and I did not come up with this. This was with a friend. I tend to go off-roading a lot of times with people that are less prepared than me. I tend to have bigger vehicles like the Tundra or like the Land Cruiser where I can store more gear, more tools. So I'm usually the tool shed. And one of the things that happens with that is people grow to kind of rely on my stuff and then they don't bring their own stuff. So one cool cheat code that we ran into, this is especially true for really long trips that are really super remote. We ran into a problem where down in Baja, you tend to get flat tires a lot. Tires get destroyed from the rock down there and they get destroyed from the cactuses and especially the sidewalls. So sometimes you can't patch them. So one of the things that we did on a trip, I went with a bunch of Jeep rock crawlers down there. Well, these guys did not have full-size spares. They're running like 40s and they can't fit them. So what we did is they brought me this, and now that they brought me this, I have multiple ones of these made that do different scenarios. So all they did is they brought a spacer that converts the spare tire that I have on my Tundra to a Jeep. Both of us are 5-lug, but the spacing of the lug pattern is different. You got a 5x127, I think, millimeter, and a 5x150. So this converts my spare tire and rim to go on a Jeep. So one thing that's interesting is if you get a couple of adaptive spacers like this, if you have a really big group of people, we went on a trip, we had 5 flats on one trip before. So a lot of times, even if you have a spare tire, you could find yourself still needing another spare. Well, if you've got a group of 5 or 6 vehicles that are running anything from 35s to 37s, and it's all close enough, if you're just trying to limp your way out of the desert in Baja so you don't die of thirst, having an adaptive plate that can take your buddy's spare from a Jeep and throw it on your car, or something from yours and put it on his, is a pretty amazing way to have extra spares. I never thought of this. It seems so obvious, but never thought of it. Okay, so there you have it. These are some of my favorite things that I've learned over the last few years of off-roading. I'm trying to share them with you. I would love to hear your guys' best ideas. What have you come up with that's super cool that you should share with the community so we can all learn together? Thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, because this is another one of those videos that definitely doesn't pay for itself. But I figured it was a good one because I was getting a ton of questions about air up, air down, PSI, and all that stuff. So hopefully we addressed a bunch of those questions. I'll see you guys next week.